Hi, my name is Brian Venton. I'm from Townsville in North Queensland, and today I want to talk to you about voting in the Senate. Now that's the big white slip of paper with dozens of names on it that we're all familiar with. I want to broaden out our understanding of a couple of basic concepts about Senate voting, and then I want to imagine what it would take, what the shape of our Senate could look like in 22 based upon our lived experience of the past 2 years that we've all been through. Let me point out a couple of things. As you know, at our elections we use a preferential voting system. That means that when we vote in the House of Representatives, that's the lower house, that's the green slip of paper, our vote and our preferences elects a single representative for our division, our seat. But when we vote for the Senate, through our preferences, we actually are voting to elect multiple representatives. 6 people. Because we're voting for 6 people, the process of Senate counting is often tedious and drawn out, inevitably. But the good thing is we do end up with a collective sense that the 6 final chosen ones do represent the will of the people to represent us as Queenslanders. To give you an idea of the complexity of Senate selection, let me explain it this way. Senate voting in 2019 in Queensland, we went through about 290 counting cycles to obtain a result for just 6 candidates. Compare that to the lower house, where 7 or 8 cycles of counting gets the result calculated for 30 MPs. That's a big difference, but it explains why it often takes weeks to get a final result for the Senate. It's a tedious, drawn out, but a very good process. Something else that many people may not realise, that in the lower house you have to check or tick every listed candidate. You have to indicate a preference, 1 to whatever, for every candidate. But it is different in the Senate. You can actually exclude whomever you wish from your ballot slip. You can pick which individual or which party group you want to represent you. You can vote above the line for a group or below the line for an individual. This is really powerful. It means that you can actually choose to not vote for any major party or any hybrid groups or any independents whom you don't like. Let that sink in. It has significant implications for us as we vote. And I'll come back to it again in a moment. But equally, you can choose to vote only for minor parties or candidates whose values align with your values. Now let me point out a couple of other observations. When candidates are selected below the line as individuals, they never get enough votes in their own right to gain a quota. It's important to see that. Remember, in 2019, a quota requires 495 votes. That's how many votes it requires. And here's an example on the screen here of the candidates' individual scores when they were nominated below the line for voting. And you can see Paul Carr from LNP got 28,000 votes. He was elected. The ALP member was elected. But look at Rennick. He only got 1,176 votes, and yet he was elected. And there's a reason for that. Larissa Waters, she scored very well too, 23,000 votes, and was elected in number 6 position. So what is the point then of voting below the line? It's a good question. Individual profiles build the strength of the group towards reaching a quota. Well-known personalities, good people, well-liked people, boosts the vote of the group that they represent. And this is the point I want to make here. It is the group vote that ends up electing a candidate to the Senate. Now compare the previous chart that we just looked at of individual candidates' tallies to this chart showing accumulated primary votes. And you can see that it's the group vote that gets candidates elected. It doesn't matter whether you vote above or below the line. I suggest as long as you vote with a group mindset. Now, I know candidate profiles are very, very important, but it is groups where senators come from, and I suggest that is very critical in this election. Now, what do we do with this information? Well, this year there are 26 parties or groups with a total of 76 candidates among them who are standing for this election in the Senate. But only 6 will be chosen by your votes. Now, if you want to give the Senate a real shake-up and a clean-out, like we're trying to do in the lower house, then I suggest this is how it can be done. Listen, exclude all major party groups from your ballot, and then only select freedom-friendly minor parties, groups or independents on your ballot sheet. What will be the effect of this? Well, let me make it very plain what this would do. Imagine if every person in Queensland voted this way. It would mean that no senator from the LNP or the ALP or the Greens would be elected, period. Why? Because they would get no votes. Now again, the question, like it was for my lower house videos that I've done, how many people of the 2.9 million Queensland voters would be willing to vote this way? That is, how many Queenslanders would be willing to exclude from their Senate ballot the Greens, the ALP or the LNP candidates from their Senate vote? Well, again, it won't be everyone. But how many do you think would vote that way? Well, let's look at some figures from 2019 to get a perspective and look at what would happen if voters did choose to change their voting preferences. You can see the total number of primary votes in column 1 there, and what the quota value of those votes added up to. The Liberals 2.7 quota, Labor 1.7 quota. They both were able to elect 3 straight off into their Senate positions, but the rest all were calculated on the basis of preference votes. Now look at what would happen if the primary vote shifted various percentage points and votes were moved from majors to minors. Now I've listed 5 scenarios, 10, 20, 30, 50 and 100%, just so as you can see the extreme end of it. I've excluded the FON because they're classified as a minor party, and I would expect them to retain their Senate position in the current circumstances that we find ourselves in. Now you'll note that a 30% drift away from the majors potentially reflects a 2 seats shift. That's 2 seats could potentially shift from the majors into the hands of the minors. Now statewide, a 30% shift equates to around 700,000 voters, about a quarter of the voting population, making a conscious choice to vote minor instead of major in 2022. Now, do you think that's doable? Well, when the polls are suggesting these kind of figures, then I think it's certainly doable. But the question is, and this is the unknown question, what percentage of the population has a serious appetite for change based upon either their lived experience from the past 2 years or what they are observing taking place with our nation for the future? Are people happy with the way our nation is been through and what it's being funneled into in terms of globalist control, the prospect of digital IDs, the influence of the World Economic Forum on our lives? Are people concerned about what's in store for us as a nation? I suggest that there are many, many voters on all sides of the political major spectrum, LNP, ALP and the Greens, who are beginning to ask serious questions about where our nation is heading. And we in this Senate election have the opportunity to have a significant impact on where our nation will head towards in terms of Senate control in the future. So, my suggestion, choose your 6 freedom-friendly parties, and there's an array of them that you can choose from. Decide whether to vote above the line or below the line. Both are relative, both are important, and both feed the collective vote of the minor parties above them. And then thirdly, execute your decision with confidence, believing that your vote will make a difference in the Senate in 2022. I trust this has been helpful. Thanks for listening. And remember, be the change that you want to see happen. Thank you.